Good morning. This is Tim Harris and Julie Harris. This is, of course, the Harris Real Estate University Superstar Interview. Now, some of you are joining us for the first time on these interviews, and we've been doing these interviews for many years now. And every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon East Coast time, Julie and I seek out and we interview someone who we feel is going to be very influential on your real estate business. Sometimes, like today, it's a true top-producing realtor. Other times, it's an author or an economist. I think last week we had Sean O'Toole, or maybe he was 2 weeks ago now, Sean O'Toole from Foreclosure Radar. We had somebody who was arguably probably the leading expert on Internet marketing a couple of weeks ago. So the point is, guys, is we seek out folks who we know are going to be able to impact your real estate business in a positive way. Well, that's the first thing that we look for. The second thing that we look for are folks that, frankly, are willing to share, are not going to, be very sheepish with the information that they're going to give, are really going to allow us to get information out of them that's going to be impactful on your businesses. So they really have to come to these interviews with a mindset of wanting to truly make a contribution. That is harder to find, trust me, because lots of people request to do these superstar interviews. Every single week we probably get, Rochelle would know better than me, but probably a half dozen people that want to be interviewed, and we only select a few of them because most people, guys, just want to sell you something. So the point of it is this is your opportunity to learn. This is our opportunity to give back. And I'm very much excited about today's superstar guest, Jeff Quinton. Are you on the phone?
I'm here, Tim.
Okay, perfect. So, Jeff, introduce everyone. I'm sorry, I'm just checking all of our systems. Jeff, everything's working, Julie. Introduce yourself to everyone, and please let them know where you sell real estate.
Okay, well, my name is Jeff Quinton, and I work and sell real estate and live in Ocean City, New Jersey, which is southern New Jersey, and that's about 5 minutes south of Atlantic City. And we're right at the bottom tip along the shore, along the beach there on the East Coast here in Jersey. Okay,
perfect. And so if they wanted to send you a referral?
Yes, referral. You can always email me at jeff@jeffquinton.com. That's spelled Quintin.com. My phone number direct is 609-398-5333, which is also 609-398-JEFF. So it spells JEFF, the 5333.
So, guys, if you have any questions during the interview, go ahead and enter them into the webinar. I'm getting all your great comments, Deborah from Los Alamitos and the rest of you guys. Good morning, Tim Blankenship. So go ahead and enter your questions in during this interview, guys, and those will be some of the questions that I use when I'm interviewing our guest today, Mr. Jeff Quinton. And, Jeff, I've sent you ahead of time the questions that we're going to be using today, but, frankly, those are just suggestions. So if you want to go in a completely different direction or, if, frankly, our listeners want us to go in a completely different direction, let's do it. Cool?
Cool, perfect. Whatever you guys, whatever works best.
All right, good. So how long have you been in the real estate industry?
I started real estate pretty much right out of high school, and I'm going on my 19th year. So I started in 1992.
How old are you?
38. Just turned 38 last Sunday, September 12th.
Oh, I turned 40 recently, you old man.
You look good, though.
Yeah, well, so do you. Of course, I don't know how old this picture is that I put on the blog.
Yeah, actually, it's a little older. I can send you a new one, but that's fine. You can use that one.
Okay, cool. All right, good. How many homes? So, guys, again, Jeff is a true top producer, as you're about to learn. How many homes do you currently have listed, and how many homes do you currently have in contract?
Currently, right now, I got probably just under 100 or so in the 90, 95 range. Again, we're selling, a few, this week right now and a few under contract. So we're roughly about 100 listings or so total, and currently under contract is a total of just about 50.
So a lot of folks are listening to that. I know you've spoken before, and you rattle off your numbers like that, and you're saying these big numbers, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, oh, my gosh, how can he manage all that? Guys, we're going to be answering and getting to all those questions in a second. So out of curiosity, you obviously sold in an area during the great real estate bubble, whatever it'll be historically known 100 years from now. How different is that market now? Like how many listings were you carrying back, say, in 07, 08 versus now, or maybe 06, 07?
Well, our market here, we had a tremendous run from 2000 2005, and then about June of 05, it really started to shift, and then by January of 06, it really took a real big decline as far as the number of transactions and also the sales price as well. And at those times, let's say in 04 and 05, when we were really, the production was way up, I probably had anywhere between 40 and 50 listings at any given time. And a major portion of my business in, say, 04 and 05 years, a lot of it was new construction, where I was able to sell some lots and so forth, or tear downs in our marketplace to developers. I was buying a lot myself and ultimately tearing property down, building on them, and then getting the out sales on the new construction as well. And so we had a lot of that going on as a major portion of our business at the time. And then by January of 06 came, and the market shifted, and I had a lot of inventory to sell off for developers and my own. But yet, and now in 06 through today, I have about maybe 4 or 5 new construction out of that, where maybe I've had 25 or 30 out of my whole inventory at one time.
Yeah, are you seeing a lot of investors migrate towards basically lot banking at this point?
There's a couple here and there. In our marketplace, we're not seeing a lot of that. There's definitely a handful of guys right now still willing to buy and build in this market, but it's all just obviously buying at the right price.
Right.
Some are lot banking and holding, but most of them aren't even in the game just yet.
So how many homes do you expect that you'll sell this year?
We're on track right now to hit goal, and that'll be 225.
All right, perfect. You said hit goal. So what does that compare? How does that compare to, say, 09?
09, I was an off year for me. I mean, with some things going on personally and so forth as far as focus. We did closed 137. And so this year alone, we're at roughly about 110 closed and over about 50 right now pending, about 160. But that's actually as of the 19th. So this week is going to, determine a little bit more in that last 5 days or so. But so we're tracking right now to be at around 220, 225, total size for the year.
So is it all right that we ask money questions? You can say pass. You have three passes during our interview. So with selling 220 units, I know you're a big tracker, so you should probably have these things memorized. What would that revenue be, like in terms of commission income?
It should be just right now what we're tracking is going to be just under $2 million or so. I mean, ultimately the goal is to be at $2,225,000 is the number of average commission of $10,000. That was the whole goal set out. But what's happened as far as the average sales price, with some of the REO stuff that we've thrown in, has really brought the average down. So I kind of look at my business in two ways. One is I have my traditional real estate sides and normal, equity type sellers that we're doing. We've got our short sale stuff that we're doing. We've got the REO stuff that we're doing. And the current 50 pendings that we've got right now, what's interesting about the numbers is, and it's just at the moment, is that on the REO side, we've got got several under contract right now, but the average right now commission coming in is $1,800. Again, it's $1,800. But when you look at the average right now of the short sale and the other traditional business combined, those two is almost $18,000. It's almost 10 times. So, and again, I'll share with you about the marketplace, why that is and how it is as far as average sales price. But so I'm always looking at it in two ways. One is at the 225, I kind of have two business running within because one's very, very profitable. One certainly is a lot of transactions, but yet maybe not so profitable, or at least a lot of transactions and not as much gross. So it's that challenge that we're always watching. So
a lot of questions are coming in about his team, the size of his team. So let's just go ahead and skip ahead and answer that question now. How many folks do you have working with you? Give us an idea of how their jobs work and how everything works inside the Jeff Quinton team.
Okay, so basically I've got 6 people in total, including myself. I'm actually down one team member as we speak, as of last Friday. But basically I've got a listing. Well, I did have a listing coordinator that I had, and I'm in search right now and interviewing for a new one. But typically, in all the years, I have a typical listing coordinator that handles all the listings and marketing and input and so forth. I've got a closing coordinator that takes care of all the transactions and so forth from the time the contract's signed all the way through to the closing. Then I've got a team assistant, my own personal assistant, Sally, who basically runs my schedule, keeps me on track, and does all the things I need to be done as far as my personal appointments. So that's the 3 admin positions. And I've got 2 other agents that work along with me. Primarily, I'm a listing agent. I do work with buyers from time to time personally, but normally I'm just doing most listings. And then Frank is my lead buyer's agent, and then Brad is my buyer's agent / REO agent that takes care of all the REO business.
Okay, so it's more of a traditional team setup. So in terms of you're the rainmaker, and you have essentially everyone that manages the files and closes the transactions and takes care of all the minutia, and then you have also someone, a division, if you will, that handles all the buyer side transactions. So it's a traditional team setup, but I have a feeling you're running it more efficiently than maybe the traditional bubble team was. So of the $2 million plus or minus in revenue that comes in, what % of that's going to be net versus basically, going to expenses and whatever else? Not EBOT, but really, what is it? Are you operating on what kind of margins you reckon?
Well, this year alone, right now, and I have a profit loss right now statement as of Wednesday. I just looked at it, and our business. Again, I'm looking at running these numbers right now as we speak. I think we're running about. I'll take a look again here. We're running probably of the gross number. including everything that's been done this year.
Remember, you're allowed to take 3 passes on these calls.
Yeah, no, and I have all the numbers. In fact, I've been looking at it because I gotta start cutting through some stuff. My business expenses, my staff, and so forth, as far as assistants and everything. So far this year, we're probably running about 35-40 total% of the gross number as far as total expenses. The goal here, though, when I did the business plan and so forth, on the gross number, the $2,250,000 was the net $1,500,000.
That right there is the bottom line. So, guys, that answers a lot of questions I'm sure a lot of you have. Now, the reason that Jeff can do it at that level, that consistently, because, Jeff, you've been producing at this level for quite a while. And when was the last, how old were you? That's a fun question someone just asked. How old were you when you sold 100 homes?
In 2010 is my, in 2000 even, basically I've been in coaching programs, for about like the last 10 years. And in 2000 is my first year I got involved in coaching. Previous to that, like 1999, I'd sold 83 units that year, and it was primarily just me and one assistant at the moment in the time. And I was, just like most agents, I was running all around, had no schedule, no discipline, no real scripts or skills, kind of just running at a high level and doing very well. And I thought I was, I was number one in my office and all that stuff. It was cool. But yet then I got involved in coaching, and that year, in 2000, I went from 83 to about 125, again with me and one assistant. We really cranked it up, and I just took on what was, the 180-degree theory from the way I used to do business, became very coachable, became very, just took on blind faith, accepted it, what they told me to do, and just completely turned business around the way I used to, or way I did, and then I went way up in production. So for the last 10 years or so, I've done over 100 sides, each year consistently, all the way up, and we got to 267, I guess it was in 2005.
So you were selling 80-some homes per year, and then you went to 120 homes per year. If there's an agent out there, Jeff, that's, say, selling, 20 homes per year, and they want to go to 40 homes per year, what would be maybe 2 or 3 tips, 2 or 3 skills that they need to adapt that helped you, specifically the skills and things that you did differently that helped you?
One of the things that helped me off the get-go, I remember my very first coaching call. In fact, I still have the notes from it. And it was a very simple call. And the coaching that I got for that first call was, and the question was asked to me, when was the last time you called everyone in your database and asked them for business? And, at the time, I don't remember. I think I had a couple hundred people in my database or whatever it was that even in the database I thought I had. And first it was like gathering everybody together and, okay, where's all the information?
So the first question everyone out there listening is, do you have a database?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing Jeff say.
Exactly. So I had to get it all together, and this is my goal for the first week. And so the very first thing I did was I just picked up the phone and started calling everybody I knew, and I got a script, hey, I'm still in the real estate business, and, who do you know that wants to buy or sell real estate right now? And that was a simple real script to it, 2 questions asked. Or statement and question, and immediately I got response to it. And next thing you know, in the first week, 2 weeks of doing this, I got a lot of referrals and business. Now the next problem was managing the leads and everything that was starting to come in for me, just prospecting directly to all of my current past clients, center of influence, and people in my database. So one was call and ask for the business to everybody, right? And then the second thing I put in place basically was restructuring my day and basically creating a schedule. I had never had a schedule, and I was told, okay, we're going to set you a schedule, and you're going to follow it. You're going to show up at this time. You're going to do this from this time to this time. And ultimately within that schedule, what I plugged in there was ultimately making sure that 70% or 75%, 80% of my day was going to be prospecting in income lead generation, and that's where I needed to be in income generation. The other portion would be in servicing. So I took a schedule on, and basically I followed that, and I kind of just did what the coach told me to do, and I did it in my business in that first year. Virtually went through the roof. It really went up quick from just doing those 2 things. So I believe it, no matter what level one's at, 10 transactions a year to go to 20 or 20 to 40 or whatever it is, if you want to add on, one is making sure that every day you spend in income generation as much as 75% of your day. Everything else has to be delegated or pushed back into a certain time-blocked period when you can get to the servicing part.
So income generating, guys, that would be lead follow-up, going on appointments, prospecting, lead generation, negotiating contracts. So lead generation and all those types of things have to come first every single day. And Jeff, you follow a very specific schedule, but I'm sure you also have a very specific number of appointments that you focus on setting per day, or you hold yourself accountable to very specific results every day, correct?
Yes, every day.
What are those?
It's the daily ones right now isn't as much as the focus as far as the weekly, because some days I get more than others in a day, but yet the daily is important. So right now my month or my weekly goal is 7 and 7. 7 listings taken, 7 deals, 7 under contract. That's the goal typically right now to generate 28 transactions, and sometimes it's 30 a month. Our goal this year is to beat our best month. Our best month was April. We did 32, and so I'm trying to get past that within one month. So 7 and 7 typically is it. So sometimes it might be just one appointment a day, but ultimately, I'm just trying to get as many listings and appointments as possible to reach to the 7. That's kind of the main focus. But as far as contacts are concerned, my contacts are important. I don't want to get into a contactitis and start overcall too many people. I kind of look to be very efficient on who I'm calling. I'm calling expireds, and I'm really, really intent on those appointments. So my contacts are down as far as the numbers I make, but yet I have the ability for whatever reason to close on them. So, typically
let me translate what you just said. You're basically saying that because you've gotten really good at setting appointments, you've gotten really good at your scripts and skills, knowing what to say, you're essentially able to make fewer contacts and set more appointments. Is that what you just said?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be making gazillions of contacts every single day because you're really efficient at converting. And guys, that's a skills thing. I mean, he wasn't born with that. I'm sure if we were to take Jeff back 10 years, it would be completely different, but he's just getting really good at it. It's called unconscious competence. It's when you do something for a long enough period of time, you get really, really good at it at a high level, then you don't really have to think about it. It just becomes automatic. And clearly that's where he's gotten in his real estate business. So, Jeff, let's swing back. We're going to kind of swing back forward and backwards on this interview just to keep it interesting. Did you shift fast enough? Did you change fast enough when the market shifted? Did you think it was going to get this bad for this long, or did you think it was just going to be temporary?
I think that I saw things and also listened to all of our peers, you and all the people around, over the years watching and coaching and so forth. So I think that personally, myself and my team in our business, we shifted pretty quick. I remember writing a letter to all of my clients and past clients in January of 2006 when inventory was ramping way up, and predicting in such a way that, hey, this is coming. You guys, wake up here, to my sellers asking for some reductions and so forth. And I got a lot of resistance from that letter. Oh, you're crazy, and that's not going to happen, and this and that. And I studied the numbers, and I really got real clear on.
Well, Jeff, what did you study? How did you know? What convinced you in your marketplace that things were shifting? Be specific.
Well, the couple, I guess, basically 4 or 5 numbers I was looking at, and I still look at, daily, and I look at it monthly. It's the active number of listings available, the active new listings entering the market, the active or the under contract number of properties under contract, the expireds and withdrawals, and then I really look at the percentages. What percentage of our inventory active per month was selling, and figuring out the absorption regarding these properties. See, in 2000, 2005, at any given time, in my main market, of which I was working within then, in Ocean City, we only had about 600 to 650 homes available for sale, and yet we were selling about 200 to 250 a month. So we only had a 3-month supply of inventory. Well, by January of 2006, we rose up to as much as 1,700 homes, from 650 to 1,700. And next thing you know, I think we're only selling maybe around 30, 35 units a month. So I think at the moment, at that time, I don't have a calculator, I can do it, but I believe back then it was somewhere close to 40 months supply of inventory. So it shifted very, very quickly, and I just noticed on those market numbers very quickly, active, what's sold, and divided by 2, and said, hey, I know that right now, if we're going from 3 months of inventory to over 3 years, there's something going on here.
Well, we do a daily motivational message, obviously, and Julie's doing it this week. And I know she was talking about something just exactly like this yesterday. Julie, are you on?
As a matter of fact, that was their homework. So hopefully all of you guys opened that up, listened to it. And so, Jeff, I really appreciate what you said, and that was unprompted. So good timing.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
Yeah. And so just so they understand, what you're talking about is absorption rate. Can you explain a little bit of the stats and how you go about that and how that's affected your business? Because you are a guy, Tim and I were just chatting that, you said you rock on the numbers. You actually know your numbers, you know your market numbers, you know your stats, the trend of your market. How has that affected you going forward in this really challenging time?
Jeff, Julie, that's a great observation, but I'm curious. Jeff, how much do you know these numbers at this point, or how much do you rely on a staff member to know the numbers and just tell you?
Well, two things. I've got one of my staff right now does all the numbers for a report for me every single month. I mean, I have, right here, I've got in front of me the August numbers. Obviously, September's not over yet, but I have August numbers, and then I also have a running list that goes way back, I could spit out as we speak, as I said, when I'm on to January of 2007, there was 1,329 active listings for sale, and 2008, I got all the numbers from 2007 right now, right in my hand. So I have a staff member look up all these in each different city of which I'm working in now, so I can recite and tell any seller wherever I'm working, whatever market, ultimately what the numbers are. And I know these, and for me, knowing the market and knowing the numbers, it allows me to have the confidence to share with them, hey, you know what, right now in your marketplace, you've got, a year and a half or 18 months worth of inventory. And currently right now, we know that in a marketplace where there's only normal appreciating upswing seller's market, in normal markets, you've got to be 5 to 6 months of inventory or less. And when you currently have 1,800, right now, absorption, meaning if not one more home came on the market for sale at your current demand, it would take you 18 months to sell off all your inventory. When I'm able to, tell a seller that and have that speak that confidence and know those numbers, you become the expert, and they then therefore say, wow, okay, maybe this does make sense, and they ultimately start to agree when you can tell them the numbers. So what's happened to my business is this has become a critical part of the presentation. I mean, it is the presentation, and very much in the beginning of it, whereas, in the last previous to the shift of the market, 2000, 2005, or even before that, you really never needed to even know the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so when you're dealing with a lot of retail, the mythical retail seller with equity,
right?
And a lot of those guys probably are real resistant to pricing correctly, especially if the market is still declining. Is that the greatest challenge in your business right now as far as listing properties, or is it something else?
No, I think that's one of the biggest challenges in the business right now in mine is pricing property properly, educating the sellers to have them understand that this is the number. There's a major portion of our inventory marketplace that just doesn't sell per month. I mean, we're running between 3 and 5%. Typically, every 3 or 5 out of every 100 homes per month will sell. So 95, 97% of the homes per month are not. And this has been consistent. This is going on 4 years now. Nothing's changed, other than average sales price has gone down. So it is a challenge to be able to sit in front of a seller and convince them or have them be convinced from the information by providing it and knowing it and let them make a choice or decision on it. So it is a challenge to price property, right. So
what if they don't listen, Jeff? I mean, if you're I know you don't go on listing appointments unless the sellers absolutely have to. So I'm going to assume that you're speaking with the seller that truly has to sell, and motivated, relocation, whatever their usual reason is. And if they won't listen to you on price, if they want to overprice by, is there like a mental rule you have for yourself where you allow them to overprice by a certain amount, and you maybe have a side agreement that they lower after this, amount of time or showings? Or how do you work that? Because you've got to run into that every day.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And yeah, there's definitely standards that I have, with a seller. If the seller right now is completely, out of their mind on price, then not just tell them straightforward, look, I'll be honest with you, I can't get you that, and the market's not going to get you that no matter what I do. And so I'll tell them. And then there's the sellers that, ultimately they're not in alignment. Their motivation is a 10, but then their price isn't. But yet sometimes with their motivation being a 10 over a period of time, if you've got and I think I've got a pretty decent price reduction campaign in place, then I will certainly work with them and take a listing on. Normally if it's about 5% above, that's probably pretty much the standard where it may go. Ultimately then to hopefully get a 5 to 10% reduction, in the first 21, 30 days, 60 days out, depending on the situation. So, it's always that balance right now. It's like, okay, so, do you take a property a little bit overpriced, knowing that you're going to get it reduced, or not take it at all, have the competitor list it, and then next thing you know, 3 months later, that competitor gets it reduced to where you wanted it to be, and then it sells. So, it all depends on the motivation going back and finding out from the seller, in my point of view, how motivated they are and do they really want to move or sell.
Right. So bottom line is if they want to overprice a little bit, just, and the chances of you selling the houses are high, even if they want to overprice a little bit, you'll take it initially with the upfront verbal understanding, if not in writing, that, look, Mr. Seller, let's try it at that number, but we're going to reduce to this number after a certain amount of time or a certain number of showings. You're not, the point is, Jeff, is you're not walking into these relationships with these sellers and overpricing listings to take them. You're being 100% honest. And if they're not in agreement with you, you're not just going to walk away because they didn't agree with you. You're going to, massage it a little bit and you try to, proceed with that relationship. A lot of agents, as you know, they'll just say, oh, didn't get my price, I'm not going to list it, and they just walk away.
No, I mean, it depends on what the situation is and the motivation for me. I list, properties all the time and sell fairly quickly, within 30 days. And in our market, that's fairly quick. Some in a week, and then others have to go through some reductions depending on depends on what's going on. But then I have a lot of sellers. I'm very straight and honest and forward with them. And I don't take the listing. Then they relist with the other person, either if it was an expired, the previous agent, or hire someone else. But what's so interesting about that is people do appreciate the truth, number one. And number two is I get more business right now, honestly, from my old expireds than my new expireds I'm calling. And what I mean by that is people that I spoke to before will go ahead and relist sometimes with someone else, and then they'll expire, and then they'll come back to me, and it'll be a come list me call at that point, and they'll call me and go, okay, I went back with such and such again for another 180 days, and they already made the reduction with that other guy, whatever it was, and then they, show up again for me to handle it, and then it's a slam dunk at that point. Now they're ready. And I get more and more of that, and I kind of like that.
And you're reminding me, Julie's IMing me right now, you're reminding me of how it was when Julie and I sold real estate too in Ohio, basically. Say over a certain price range where homes were just harder to sell, it was normal for it to go through maybe another realtor or two before it ended up as your listing. Yeah. The fact is expired, motivated sellers are oftentimes, especially ones that wanted overpriced first, are oftentimes the best sellers to have because they're actually finally ready to sell.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. So, Julie, did you have any questions? I hear you. Or that might be Rochelle. I am me too. Okay,
I'm looking through the questions, and Jeff, they're intrigued by both your schedule and the groups of people. Who are you actually calling? We refer to that, of course, as spokes in the wheel, your different avenues of business.
Sure.
And so, of course, that relates back to your schedule. So, could you walk them through a typical day in the life of Jeff?
Sure. I mean, typically, and I'm not a guy that's in the office at 7:45 or 7:30 and so forth, or even 8 o'clock, honestly. I got here about maybe 8:45 this morning, and I actually take off Thursdays and Sundays, so I came in this morning, and from everything that went on yesterday, I had to go look through my Priority 1 file regarding any income generation things I needed to get on quick. So I do that. That was this morning. But ultimately, the standard day is I would come in, and I have a kind of a unique environment and setup. I have a complete separate call center, money center, call it, prospecting center, away from my staff. And they're about 5 miles down at the actual office, and I've got a separate prospecting office that I have my team and I are here. Me and my two other agents are here. And so I will come in, and I just go to the fax, and the fax has my schedule for the day, printed out specifically what I've got going on, where I've got to be. And so I grab that, and I bring it back to my prospecting station along with my the MLS hot sheets printed out. And then also in the morning, I also, like around 7 o'clock this morning or so, I ran a hot sheet at my house, and then basically we get a lot of expireds, but I kind of choose which ones I'm going to want to call, because there's a ton, certain areas I don't want to call, and I don't want my staff over bogged into getting me information on expireds that I don't want to call. So I just click on the ones I want, email it to my staff, and when I walk in, they're already all done and completed as far as the tax record information, the phone numbers, the brochure, everything ready. So I bring all that back to my desk, and ultimately the very first thing I do is, depending on the day, depending on the expireds and what's going on, I'll typically get on the expireds first thing and start calling all those through, and then also call my past clients and center of influence. So like today, I've got a whole stack right now for my schedule, Friday, September 20. I got my 23rd calls that she actually combined in because I wasn't here yesterday, but my 24th calls in front of me that are all printed out through Top Producer. So I've got all my calls all scheduled for me that I get. And typically during my prospecting time from, say, 9 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, I'm primarily calling through my past clients, center of influence, all my scheduled calls. I do a lot of lead follow-up at this time, and I'm working on expires. That's primarily who I'm calling and when.
So, guys, just to emphasize what he just said, calling, right? So you're asking what his primary lead generators are. It's picking up the phone. It's following a script. and it's prospecting the expireds. That's a huge lead generator for him. He said earlier that he's calling. I assume you're calling and probably also mailing to your centers of influence and past clients.
Yeah, I've got a complete, mailing campaign basically that goes out to them, quarterly. Like August 20th, next will be November 20th, and then February 20th, I think they're all postcard mailings to my past clients center of influence, and so like the next one coming up will be a Christmas card, go out in November, scheduled for November 20th to go out. I might even do a Thanksgiving card, depends.
Good. So, guys, that's it. I mean, he doesn't spend a lot of money on lead generation. He's not doing, someone asked this question. It's a good one. What are you doing online? Or more specifically, are you generating any closable business from anything you're doing online?
We without a doubt get and that's some of the things I had to go through this morning is all the inquiries through emails that came in on our listings, and I had to delegate that out to my buyer's agents, show them, hey, follow up with this guy, that guy, and my staff, ask them, did they inquire into a listing, did you, send them the brochure, I just kind of figured all that out, but I would say, we get it's probably 7 or 8 buyer inquiries per day, through email in our office, and the way that is number one, through my website, driving everybody back to the website from having all my listings on there. And number two, I do a lot of email marketing. Like I just sent out a brochure on Wednesday about an upcoming property that's actually going to auction. And I don't have it listed. I used to have, there's 9 units. I used to have 2 of them, and the client ended up going to an auction company and wants to sell all 9 of these units. They're beachfront condos. And he asked me, do me a favor, send this brochure to all of your buyers and, have them register and you'll get 3%. So I said, okay, fine, no problem. So I put it in my system and my staff create the brochure, send it out to about 4,500 buyers in my database. And so from that, we're getting all these inquiries coming back on it to schedule, how do I register and go to the auction and stuff. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff as far as direct email type of marketing to our potential sellers list and our buyers that are in there. And then as far as the web stuff is concerned, just my website and marketing that. That's typically what I'm doing.
But you're not spending any money or time on social networking or anything of that nature?
The only thing I do as far as that is concerned, I do a lot of videos and so forth. But no, I'm not spending much time as far as, on that kind of stuff. I do a lot of videos right now, and I put them on a blog, and it goes out, once a month to my database and so forth. That gets out, so I am doing that, and I also have a video with an expired, and I have a Why Hire Me video that I do. So I'm virtually emailing a lot of that stuff out. If I have an expired right now, what's kind of cool is, if I get an expired's email address, I send them my Why Hire Me video, and then an expired video that typically has me standing in front of, 4 different houses about, hey, behind me is a home over at XYZ Street, previously listed with, the other realtor for forever, never sold. Seller hired me. We sold it in, 50 days, 96% of ask, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on from one to another. So just that's the kind of marketing we're doing. I don't do one print ad marketing. I don't do anything as far as any real expensive, papers or magazines or nothing like that.
How long did it take for you, guys, and I'm going to integrate some of your questions that you're asking, so keep on entering your questions in the webinar. We're getting some really smart questions, which I appreciate. How long did it take for you to adapt in terms of, knowing how to do short sales? When did short sales become something that you were sort of on the edges of the market to something you saw becoming sort of a main, lead generator for you?
I would say about 3 years ago is when I really started getting into that a little bit, and then more or less in the last 12 months we really ramped it up just because it's just become the marketplace of the moment, the market of the moment. And, in my market, for whatever reason, their agents virtually have no idea how to do them. They're scared of them. They don't want them. And, right now I've got, probably 20 or some right now going. In fact, I've got about 293,000, I think is what the pending income is, if they close. You know what I mean?
Approximately.
It's a big, whatever happens there, who knows, but we understand that, but I just know that over the next, 12 months or so, at least in 2011, it can be a very large, big portion of my business. So I'd say in the last 12 months, I started really recognizing this is the market of the moment, and it's more and more people are upside down in our marketplace. 2 years ago, people were holding on, and now, in fact, I just had a conversation with a client 5 minutes ago before I jumped on the call. A guy who is a builder developer, and he just reduced 4 of his units today. Called me direct and said, "Hey, I can't do it anymore. I got to get rid of them." And these are these are the lowest ones are $995,000. The highest one is $2,000,000 $995, $3 million. And so these 4 right now, this guy just called me, and this is somebody who's basically been holding on these properties for 3 years, new construction, beautiful properties. And the one at $3 million was $5 million, and the ones that are $1 million were like $1.8 million. So it's just becoming more and more of the market, and I'm just trying to become more of the expert to understand it, know it, and it's become part of my business.
Why do you think in a market like yours, it's so obviously, where you have to know how to do short sales, why do you think realtors are still so resistant to know that skill, to have that skill, in your opinion?
I think there's a lot of stigma about it. I think that they're very much uneducated on the process. I think they also have this hallucination that they don't need to do them, and there's still other business out there in other ways. So probably those 3 things right now. And which is okay because, in fact, I walked in today, my buyer's agent said to me, hey, I got an agent out in Vineland, which is about 30 miles away. He's referring us a short sale. It's actually his listing, and he's an agent with a different company referring it to us. And I'm saying, perfect, we'll take it.
Right. There's actually a lot of agents right now that are in the exact same situation as you are around the country, where they're closing short sales. And now what they're doing, Jeff, is being at the time of year where a lot of listings expire all the spring, hopefuls that didn't actually get sold that should have been short sales in the first place. A lot of agents right now are taking listings. I think you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and they're just basically having realtors refer their listings over to them, and just so you would be receiving their listing, obviously, and just end up paying that realtor a 20% referral. There's a lot of opportunity out there right now, guys, just because, frankly, there's a lot of realtors that waited too long. So when you're listening to Jeff, what I hope all of you are hearing, he's very consistent. There's not a lot of ego there. I haven't sensed any ego. It's about getting his job done. It's staying on task, following his schedule. He knows what his numbers are. He's running a business. That's what it feels like I'm talking to right now, doesn't it? I'm not talking to a highly emotional salesperson. I'm talking to a business owner. You guys can hear that in the words that he uses. And he adapted to the marketplace 3 years ago. He realized short sales were coming. He didn't resist it. He didn't question it. He just looked at the numbers that were coming out of his MLS, the statistics, the facts, and he said, hey, guess what? This is something I need to learn. He didn't wait around for the clouds to clear because he realized, as many of you have, so I know I'm preaching to the choir on this, he realized that there's opportunity in flux. There's opportunity in change. And as Jeff is proving, the greatest fortunes in any industry are made during the greatest times of change. And Jeff, that's fantastic that you've adapted that quickly. And I suspect you're going to have, as you were saying, 2011 is going to be a huge year for you, focusing on those short sales. Are you seeing more folks come to you that are wanting to do what we call strategic disposals, or, basically the guys that are doing strategic short sales?
What do you mean by that?
Folks that are basically have the ability to pay but are just choosing not to because
all the time. Yep, all the time.
Yeah. That's common with you. That's not something that's on the fringe. Yeah, that's something else our industry doesn't like to talk about, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's happened more and more and more.
Yeah.
But what happened was when I adjusted here, I'd always been working with expired listings and so forth. Always looking for sale by owners and my past clients. And center of influence, referrals is always a major portion of my business. But a good portion of my business, 2000, 2005, like I said, in 04 and 05, was new construction, right? Like I think in 05 I closed 83 sides and just knew from going in on the lots and then getting the out sales. It was a major portion of my business, like $1 million, okay? 83 sides. And what happened was in 06, hey, no developer was going to buy anything, right? So now all the business I'd previously been used to prospecting for and working on and out of these deals has gone bye-bye. So I had to say, okay, well, how am I going to make up 83 sides that I was used to doing last year? What am I going to do? What's the market of the moment now? So I recognized back then was, okay, well, the short sale thing, however that works, I better start learning and see what that's all about. Then you hear about all the REO stuff that's going on. I'm like, all right, well, let me figure out how I get involved and what that's about. And then so that's pretty much able to allow me to take on, an additional 100 sides in the last 12 months.
So what you're focusing on, you always have your numbers in the front of your mind, right? You know what you're trying to accomplish every year, or what you will accomplish every year. You know what you want your personal income and your revenue to be every year, and you're not worrying about whatever the market trends are. You're just saying, okay, that's the trend, that's the direction I have to go.
Yep. Trying to get ahead. I'm trying to be ahead of that curve. Yep.
You're not resisting it, and that lack of resistance goes back to the fact, guys, he's a business owner. He's being opportunistic. And he's not overly worrying about, how long the trend will last or it won't last or the rest of it. He's just taking action on it. That's something, Jeff, I wish the rest of the industry would catch on to, because I think our whole industry was very late to coming to that type of thinking. And, of course, now everybody's, short sales, as you said, it's the market of the moment. I think that's really been true, especially for like the last 8 months, going into 2011. But still, I wonder how many realtors are out there left standing that should have adapted back when you did. So let's talk. Go ahead.
There's a ton. Yeah. In my office we have in our company we have a weekly report sheet as far as all the transactions, and I don't know. I guess every contingent upon a short sale deal on our report, I don't think there's any other agent that's doing them in my whole entire my company. There's 70 agents here
that are doing short sales, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know if any other ones are doing them. Maybe one or two.
I need to have you meet Michelle McClintock down in Florida. She's doing short sales at a really, really high level. I
listened to her interview.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Well, she's the gal. You asked me a question part of this interview about a high-end short sale you want to do. I'm just going to hook you and Michelle up. I'm sure she's listening and she's about to IM me. But so somebody asked, Jeff, do you ever do any door knocking, or is it straight phone calling?
I honestly, not that I say I never do. I do have door knock, but primarily it's all calling. 99% of it. It's always been calling, and then I just feel that I can get to more people quicker, and I've got better skill. Well, not better skill. It's just I can close, and that's just what I do over the phone.
It's easier for you at this point because you have unconscious competence because you've done it so much. Yeah. Desira from Irvine says, where are you getting most of your business from, and what percent is REO business now?
So REO business right now of the total is about probably almost 35-40% of my business. Okay, so this year, if we're tracking, around 220, 225 deals, and we'll probably been up about 75 or so with closed REO. So whatever that number is there, 75 divided by 225 is 33%. So yeah, just about that, 35% or so.
Gotcha. Eric from Chicago wants to know, do you scrub your phone number so they do not call us before you call them?
I don't.
Okay.
No. I just call.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about that anymore. That guys,
nope.
There's a lot of people that go to the extreme on that whole thing. Well, let's just ask the question, Jeff. Have you heard of any realtors? What's been your experience on people actually getting in trouble because they do not call list?
I don't know of one. I don't know of one that's ever been penalized.
I have heard. Personally know one loan officer, and I've read about probably 20 or 30 loan officers, but never a realtor.
No, and certainly, and there's always a debate on that, do not call list, but I think people get caught up on that a little bit too much, or read into it a little too much. Ultimately, my mindset is, number one, there isn't a call list, there isn't a do not call list, even there is one. Not that I'm being ignorant of the fact of not abiding in the law, but ultimately, I'm not selling a product. I'm asking someone to help sell theirs. I am just providing, I have a buyer for something, and they have something to sell. It's not like I'm calling them to sell something to them.
Right, exactly. And I imagine, 1 in 1,000 times someone actually says, hey, I'm on the do not call list or whatever. It's a non-issue, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Jerry from Huntington Beach, this is a question that came in earlier. Actually, Julie, let's get back to that question towards the end of the call, because that one's not really, I'll ask it anyway. It doesn't really matter. All right, so an agent in my office said that the asset managers have a feeling broker's license is much better and will get REO BPOs than just having real estate license. Is that true? Jeff, do you have a broker's license?
I do not.
Okay, and Jerry, that's not true. That's like one of those mythical rumors that goes around the internet blogosphere about REOs and BPOs. You have to have some sort of, REO license. If you had, a broker's license, Jerry, trust me, if you had to have a broker's license, I'd tell you to go get one, especially in California. Maria says, can you please explain one more time why they do not sell properties in bulk, meaning Fannie Mae? By the way, great info. Thank you, guys. Because they don't have to. And the statistic was, and this was from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And remember, guys, we talked directly to the guy at Freddie Mac who's in charge of bulk REO sales. Who's in charge of REO sales. And we talked directly to the gal from Fannie Mae who is literally in charge of bulk sales, right? And the actual percent that gets sold bulk is, what was it, Julie? 1/2 of 1%?
1/2 of 1%. And you guys have to realize, by the time it gets to that list, if it ever gets to that list, it's because primary residents, your regular buyers, have said no thanks to the property. Then the next thing that happens is investors are allowed to buy it, and if they say no and it's still on the market, then there's a small chance that it'll end up on one of those lists. So it's already sort of been through the ringer, and like Tim said, they don't really need to because it's sold by the time, it gets down to that.
Right.
He actually said it is their course of last action.
And the houses that get sold, as you can imagine, that end up being bulk sales, they're not nice properties.
They actually said they mix their Detroit properties into the bulk package to get rid of them. Sorry, guys in Detroit, we love you.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't feel bad.
Poor Detroit people.
We feel your pain.
Yes, that's right. Connie from Cypress, California, Jeff asked, are you doing any farming, any direct mailing, or anything of that nature?
The only thing that I do, I don't have a specific farm that I, cultivate and work through and so forth. The only thing that I'm currently doing right now is sending just sold postcards. And basically it's a postcard that I currently have. I have, like, for example, 21 properties, pictures, okay, of the actual house I sold, whatever. I think they're all the ones that are in July or whatever it was. And I'm just using that one specific but not putting the month on it. And it has a sold banner across it and the address. And then I send out on each one of those properties about 300 postcards to each one of those addresses around. So just sold postcards. I've just implemented a kind of a new, more aggressive postcard campaign, and that's one of them that I'm doing.
All right, perfect. All right, so next question. Gene from Portland, Oregon. What is the pay for the admin type on your team, hourly rate or salary, and how much pay structure for the buyer? Just basically pay. A lot of questions about pay.
Okay, and so with experience and so forth, like my assistant itself is roughly around $20 an hour. My closing coordinator, I think, is around $19 an hour, somewhere in that range. And then that's also the same thing with my listing coordinator in process of hiring. Depends on, the low end would be like $15 an hour, high end maybe 20, depending on the experience. Each person $40,000-$50,000 per year in total admin, salary / hourly rate. And then buyer's agents, a little bit different. Obviously, they're commission. I'm on a 90% split, okay, with my company, so that's what I get. And then out of that, if it's 2 ways I go. If my lead buyer's agent, Frank, if he brings in a deal on his own without my lead at all, he'll get 50%. If it's my lead generated, it's 25% of the 90 that I bring in. So it's 25-50 depending on how it's generated. And then my REO / agent, Brad, and buyer's agent as well, he handles all the buyers on the REO side too. And then handles all the listing side of it as far as the REO, the OC checks, the BPOs. He handles that whole entire thing. And he's a 20% split off the bat on the REO side.
Sure.
And he's 40% if he brings the lead in himself.
Kathy from Ann Arbor wants to know, is there a package of info? She's asked, Kathy, I'll ask her question. What is the package of info you get for expired calls? I think she's asking, what information do your assistants gather on the expireds, and how do you decide which ones you're going to call and which ones you're not? So you said you hand-pick them. Yes. Which ones do you pass on? Which ones do you decide to call on, and why?
Well, okay. So right now, my main marketplace is in Ocean City, which is 7 miles long by 1 mile wide, right? And it's in a resort market, 90% absentee owner. And yet there's only about maybe, 600 transactions happen, 1,200 sides or so in that marketplace. So ultimately being able to do 200, 250, 300 sides, of the 1,200, to dominate that, it can be done. But yet it's going to be hard to take that much market share when you have, 700 realtors you're competing with on 7 miles long. So what I've been able to do is have to go outside of my marketplace, expand, where, frankly, in 2000, 2005, or previous 2000, I never did that. And this is all new. When the market shifted in 2006, I saw it coming. I said, hey, for me to maintain and do the level I want to do, I have to go outside of my marketplace because the number of transactions that used to be dropped, dramatically in half. So I said, all right, well, what do I got to do? So I've had to go outside of it. So now I'm going, 20, 25 miles south, 10 miles or so north, maybe or 5 miles towards like Atlantic City, that area, and then going inland, going west, another maybe 10 miles in. So now I'm covering a big geographical area, 20-mile kind of radius, which consists of all different little cities. And so when I do the expires, I look at all these little areas that are around. Once I choose to do certain areas I know that are going to sell or a little more in demand, typically properties that are more inland, 5 miles in, or maybe not as desirable area, under 200,000. I won't have them look up the expired information on that. So it's kind of a standard right now, 200 or less. I won't So I just kind of pick and choose on the market that I kind of know that I want to go after for the moment, because I'm covering such a large area now. There's so many expireds. I mean, on the 30th or 31st of the month, there could be, 500, and there's just no way my staff is going to be able to go through them, that quickly and get all that information. So I'd rather be more strategic about it and say, okay, I like that one, I know I can do this one, this is good, and just be a little more efficient. So I'm physically choosing those areas.
So an interesting question just came in. Back in the bubble, right, you were competing all the time. When those expireds came in, there weren't very many of them because things were selling really fast. And when they did pop up, you were, I'm sure, competing for that expired listing with a number of other really very skilled agents. Has that changed, or have you found the nature of your competitions changed because of this shift?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's not as much competition out there right now. There is a portion of good agents right now that's still the same agents that we used to compete with back then, still competing now. But there's not anywhere near as many. There's not anywhere near as many agents, period, in the market as there was. So
even though the actual market itself has gotten tougher, your skills have had to get a lot, more honed. Obviously, you had to learn a lot more. Well, there's a good question. What would be the three things that you had to adapt or you had to learn in the past 36 to 48 months after, because of the shift? What have you had to add to your repertoire of skills that you didn't have before? You mentioned short sales, so that probably
yeah. Well, the knowing the numbers of the market, I mean, that has been absolutely critical, knowing the numbers. Because right now, if I said to the average agent in my office or in town or whatever it is, how many homes are listed for sale, they might be able to say, the average, okay, there's roughly, 1,100 active listings. If I said to you, how many homes sold in the marketplace last month, guarantee you they'd have no clue what the absorption rate is. And, they're just la-la land in most of them, in my opinion. So learning the numbers and knowing that has become and being able to, knowing the numbers is one thing, but being able to recite them in such a way that the seller is going to understand it is another skill. So that's been a big skill that we've had to learn. And then the skill of price and property, being able to determine what the right price is in the market, looking at the marketplace and being able to share with the seller, hey, look, are you willing to jump ahead of this declining curve, or do you want to stay behind it, or ultimately where do you want to be? And then being able to provide them the good information regarding the market so they can make a choice, and you can share with them their options. So again, it's just a presentation. I guess my skill of presentation has really had to be at a different level. Because back before, it was like there was really not a lot of remorse in the market. Before, you didn't have seller's remorse because they were making money. You didn't have buyer's remorse because they were buying a property, and next year or next month it was worth more. And so now you've got buyer's remorse, you got seller's remorse, all happening.
Jeff, should we just take a collective moment and just remember those days? I mean, seriously, it's almost humorous, Jeff, the things you just said, because it's, can you imagine a bigger shift? Can you possibly imagine in your wildest dreams back in the bubble the market would have shifted this dramatically? So do you remember back when agents were having to write contracts on the buyer sides of things, and had the seller or the buyers were having to include little syrupy letters to the sellers, saying why they love the house and how they want to, and sometimes they'd actually give the sellers signing bonus just to negotiate their contract first. Isn't that crazy that was only 4 years ago?
I know, it's crazy.
I know, it's amazing. So, Jeff, I wrote down two more questions for you, and I think these are getting questions you can take a hall pass on if you'd like to, but I hope you don't. First of all, the easy one, what do you anticipate for 2011? What do you think it's going to hold for your real estate business? Are you expanding, holding firm, reducing, or increasing your market exposure? What are your plans for
my right now focus and thoughts is to expand and to be more aggressive and to expand not only with the team but also the sources of business, meaning to take the short sale stuff to a whole other level, to take the REO side of things at a whole other level. Ultimately, we talk about shadow inventory and getting prepared right now for all this to hit, and ultimately if it's going to come, and we're just being prepared for it. So, I mean, for me, it's to crank it out and to be in a 300 transaction team next year, and ultimately for me personally, is probably going to bring on some additional help to do that. So that's all I'm going to really do is just focus on leveraging me a little bit to be able to build the business, work on the business versus in it as much. And so I'm all about expanding right now.
At your level, what are your biggest challenges, or what are the biggest challenges you're anticipating?
In the business, day-to-day business itself, or just in general?
But you can answer it whatever popped to mind first when I asked the question.
I guess my first biggest challenge is, the complacency probably. You know what I mean? I think that's been a challenge, even though most people around me would say, oh, you're never complacent because you're goal setting and you're goal oriented and you buying this and doing that and getting yourself out of certain situations. But I think at every level you get kind of comfortable and so forth. So the challenge is just always knowing to stretch yourself a little bit more and surround yourself and not get so complacent because, at all levels, it comes in spurts for me, I guess. 1 month I'll get all jazzed up and be like, all right, I'm going to buy a new car and this and that and get out of comfort zone or whatever it is and so forth. So that would be something as far as the mindset, complacency. As far as a challenge is concerned in the business, everything, there's so many challenges right now. I mean, one of our biggest challenges we face right now is buyer lead conversion. We get a tremendous amount of leads coming in from buyers. It's converting what we've got. So that the issue isn't getting more buyer leads. It's a matter of converting what I have. It's a big, money hole or money gap or whatever you want to call it, in my business that I believe that we need to fill. So, that's one of my biggest challenges. And an income source I believe I'm losing a lot on that we could gain on right now. That's probably one of them. These are just ones that just come to my mind,
Well, there's lots of opportunity. I mean, that's for sure. In a marketplace that's shifting like this, there's nothing but opportunity. You just have to have your eyes open to it. You mentioned the word complacency, and that's kind of an interesting question because it's absolutely true, and that's something that affects everyone at every level. How do you know when you're becoming complacent? Does someone tell you? Does your wife, like Julie, my wife will go and slap me upside the head, so you're becoming complacent in a specific area at some form. She goes to Pilates every day and she kind of nudges me to go with her, things like that. How do you know when you internally are becoming complacent? What are the areas that you have to watch out for internally?
I just have to continue to, how do I know? Let's see. It's just something I look at and feel, you know what I mean? I look around a little bit, and I meet with my bookkeeper and accountant and so forth and watch the bottom line on the numbers. Like Wednesday, for example, we did profit and loss and so forth, and what I said to him the other day was, I said, I need to know right now, what's my monthly nut? I mean, I want to know exactly right now, what is it that I need to make or earn? How many transactions do I need to learn to cover my monthly nut? And not stuff that's just reoccurring, standard, fixed things, not things that come in and out, and I don't want to know some of the rental property I have, here's the mortgages, but what I want to know is, if I get income coming in, is my plus or my minus? If I'm minus, okay, that's a nut I got to cover, that amount. So it's always watching my financial numbers, I think is what is going to drive me with complacency. If I got a big bank account or something in there, maybe I'll get a little lazier, whatever's going on. Right now, I'm all jazzed up to know these numbers right now and more importantly, become more profitable because I look at my business expenses. So I'm always, the littlest things. Not that I'm being cheap, but I guess I am. But, I mean, my staff wanted to order new lock boxes the other day, and they're like $16.99. I said, hey, go on eBay or something. Go find the cheap ones. Go get used ones. I mean, these are like throwaway things, and they found them for like $7.99, you know what I mean, out there. And I'm just putting it back on them. Otherwise, years ago, I'd say, fine, go buy 100 of them or whatever. No big deal, So I guess for me, it's knowing when I see the numbers in my finances. I guess is what turns me on and turns me around as far as makes me complacent or not.
Well, Jeff, you've been making over $1 million for quite a while, and you've been doing it consistently. So I'm sure, and you sound like you're a very conservative, well thought out guy. You've accumulated some wealth, I'm sure. So when you're saying you're looking at your numbers and you're paying attention to all those types of things, and you're doing your P&L statement. What specific are you trying to work towards, like having so many paid off rental properties, paying off, what is it? Yep. What specific matrices at your level?
Right now, what a lot of my focus is on is really thinking of passive income. If I was to turn the machine off today, if I just turn it off right now, live the kind of lifestyle I want to live with my existing expenses and just kind of cruise, or not cruise, but, ultimately got to do what I want to do at the level I want to do, how much passive income would flow to me? How much, what is it can I get set up with? So I'm always looking at that right now. At least that's my focus for now. And it kind of comes and goes depending on what's going on. So I'm looking at like I had an appointment to buy a 6-unit complex and had to meet with city officials and so forth to figure out what I could do there. And then yesterday I went and drove by 2 self-storage facilities that can be bought at a discount from a bank and, just different stuff like that. So I'm always looking, how can I put myself in a position to get some passive income right now? That's kind of my focus at the moment.
that's like the ultimate test of you as a salesperson, but also as a business owner, is how much you drive to the bottom line. Realtors,
Yep.
Jeff, as I'm sure you know, they like to talk about their big numbers, right? But one big number that they hardly ever talk about is their savings, or how much they're actually netting. And I love the fact that you are so accountable to the creation of the passive income is fantastic. I mean, if you think about it, Jeff, that really is the next level for all top-producing realtors, is to, you said cover your nut, but more than cover your net, right? And for the rest,
I want to still have more than that, But
so
you got to know the numbers on all the way around, because I've got so much going on. I need to figure out again, where am I with a lot of this stuff? You know what I mean?
Well, you're 38. How much time have you given yourself to create enough passive income so that you no longer had to be, if you decide to one day wake up and not sell real estate anymore, right?
Well,
how much time have you given yourself to create that passive income?
It's interesting on this topic, because, I was on a way, to a very, very good place to be able to turn the machine off, right? I was on my way there. And then, in the past 2005, making a lot of money, saving a lot of money, and a couple of things occurred in my life, and the personal side and business side. I mean, in 1 year I took on some development deals, and I lost $1 million. I mean, total straight up $1 million. On 800 on one project, I lost in some others. So that is a big shot to the gut. Secondly, more personally, I got divorced, and that was just finalized in February. So that in itself, there was a tremendous amount of buyout of real estate, of the assets, all kinds of stuff that threw me way back into where I thought I was cruising at one point. Now I'm going to kind of start all over again. So for me, it's a 5-year goal to get back. It's like kind of rebuilding at this point a lot of what I had to lost and what I had to pay out and so forth. That's just my personal side of things. That's kind of why my production was where it was last year. Focus and mindset was kind of off, and I don't really talk about it anymore because that's the past. So, but I'm just trying to share with you guys and the call and the listeners here, that I'm really jazzed and excited again in my business and have to rebuild right now. So probably 5 years is the goal.
So 5 years, your goal is to have enough passive income coming in to more than cover all of your overhead. That sounds like a great goal.
Yep.
By the way, you're probably going to have to look at it outside of your immediate market, just because stuff is still, I'm sure, too expensive there to truly cash flow. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just, my agents and our students across the country will attest to this. There's lots of areas in the country right now that are, this is a question I get a zillion times on the blog, every single month. Is this a great time to buy real estate? Well, I'll ask you that question. Is this a great time to buy real estate?
Absolutely, 100%.
Why?
Well, a couple of things. Looking back 10 years ago, was real estate in your marketplace worth more or less? 10 years before that, worth more or less? 10 years before that, worth more or less? Just keep going back 10-year increments. Now, this might be the next 10 year, maybe not. Who knows? But I would say ultimately, if you're buying real estate to long-term hold, right now there's not a better time. I mean, look at interest rates, look at the inventory, look at pricing, how far it's down. I mean, who cares if it goes down another 10%? If you're going to hold it to pay it off, 15 years, the 10% you're trying to save, you're going to make it up. I just did on my blog itself, I just did a little wealth building, 15-minute video of just how to buy real estate and earn wealth. And that's basically buying, homes and paying them down and creating the income and so forth from it. So I believe right now, buy as much as you can. I mean, I wrote an offer today on a property. I signed one today on a property, a short sale. I'm always looking to do and buy stuff and see what I can acquire.
There's Baron von Rothschild, and Julie, if you can Google it to find out when he said this, it had to be forever ago. But anyway, he's the one that said when there's blood on the streets, buy real estate. And so fortunately, there's no blood on the streets, but there certainly is a lot of fear on the streets, which is probably the modern-day equivalent. And this is absolutely the time to be buying real estate, just because it's overcorrecting. You see in markets, Jeff, like Las Vegas, you hear the national depreciation was something like 30%. Well, in markets like Las Vegas, where people are still talking it down, you had 16, 70% depreciation. And Julie and I are buying rentals there in Ohio. And, it's interesting. In Vegas, there's big money that's coming in behind trusts and buying. And you're seeing whole takedowns of condo complexes and stuff that's happening by huge Wall Street money. And what are they doing with those things? They're taking them, they're renting them out for usually it's a 12 to 13% cash on cash. I'm not making those numbers up. And then what they're doing, and this is very interesting, once they control that particular condo development, is that they're taking in 5 of the houses or 10 of the houses, and they're putting them for sale as lease options. And they're like doubling their money based on what they paid on the lease options. So there's right now we're setting ourselves up in the country to create absolutely incredible fortunes. Now, to Jeff's point, who knows, 10 years, 5 years? Don't count on the appreciation. Buy for the cash flow. Buy for the future cash flow. But in any event, Jeff said it right. This is absolutely the best time, ever to buy real estate.
I don't know of any other time that's better than now. You take a look around. One specific in my backyard here. You guys follow this, or I'm not sure if you see it. The Resorts Casino right here on the beach, in Atlantic City. Virtually, just a guy named Gomes bought it. Previous CEO or previous guy from one of the Trump companies just bought it for $35 million. There's 1,500 hotel rooms. That's $22,000 a hotel room per room.
With
like 40 acres on the beachfront, Atlantic City, for $35 million. We sell on the beachfront here a single-family home for $3 million. But this is a damn casino, right, on the beach. And you look at, it needs work and it needs things like that. But this property previously, the developers and owners paid $360 million at one time for this piece. The guy just bought it for $35 million. Cash is king. There's so much opportunity in the market, and one quote that I like to live by, and when someone says to me it's the right time to buy, is the old J. Paul Getty quote, one of the most wealthiest, I think the first billionaire ever. It said something. The quote was like something to the fact that you want to buy when everyone's selling, and sell when everyone's buying.
Yeah, they're all. I think they're all basically the same. It's the contrarian, right? So you were the contrarian. Well, you learned it and you adapted to short sales. So you're being the contrarian now, and everyone's talking on real estate. You're out there buying, and we're at it. Here it is. September of 2010. The midterm elections are in November. All this sort of uncertainty in the economy, all this negative news comes out every single day. Guys, here's another little. It's not even a secret at this point. REO listings are definitely getting released. Next 6 to 12 months, prime golden time to buy property because everybody else is running for the hills. Take advantage of it. Be the contrarian. Where are you being a contrarian now? Any place specifically in your business?
Me personally right now, I think that the REO side of things right now, again, just submitting the accounts I have, going out and getting new. I'll give you one today. Today, just about the HUD account that's out there right now, and that's today is a big day for that right now. It's going on, and I would never have thought ever in the world even to even consider that, but it's just the market of the moment. There's a lot of business there. It's a whole other separate division I'm trying to bring on. So where somebody that normally would say no to something, I'm looking at it and saying I think there's opportunity there. So the short sale side, probably, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we're doing.
So, Jeff, the last question I wrote down for you, and this is, I think, probably a question that we've touched on throughout this interview, and I think people probably have a real good feel for your energy. But what drives you? Why are you so successful now when so many other agents are struggling? What is it that makes Jeff Quinton so successful over such a long period of time in this business?
That's a great question. And I would say, for me, I would say as far as where the drive comes from, I'm driven from fear. Ultimately, more pain-driven than pleasure-driven. It's a lot of it comes from background and childhood and the way I grew up, and things like that, and basically having a vision that I won't live the life that my parents lived and I lived and the way I was, and there's different times in my life that I look back, knowing, hey, my mom's car got repossessed one time, and just little stuff like that. I didn't come from a very rich family whatsoever. And so just having that I guess, background that I, won't go back to that or won't lead that kind of life, that drives me a lot. And then there's I've got two daughters, amazing daughters, 4 and 6 years old. They drive me right now. That was a whole different thing that's come into my life in the last, obviously, 6 years ago, as far as, making sure that they're taken care of and so forth, just not about me. And so, I think that what separates is just knowing the drive, of going backwards from the fear of something like that. And then also, ultimately I want to be able to be in a position to be financially secure and have all the things I want to have. I have big goals and dreams, and, next to me I've got a big, on my wall, big dream board, it's huge, and all the cars in the kitchen I want and the planes I want and, all the kind of stuff, basically is what it is. But, that kind of stuff drives me, and I think that separates me is being very goal-oriented. A lot of agents out there don't have a clue. I'm just always looking at what are you doing today? It's my guys. What's your goal? What's for the week? I said to the guys today when I walked in, what are you guys reading right now? I said, well, what are you listening to? I went in I have a library and cabinets in here. in my office, and I pulled out different books. I gave one mentored by a millionaire to one guy. I said, because I just noticed these guys are just not plugged in. So I'm, always driven by, education on what other people are doing, stuff like that. I guess that separates me a little bit from what I do.
Ted Turner, I was watching an interview with him yesterday, and you and him are kindred spirits. He said basically set unachievable goals.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Set goals that are so big that, they drive you at such a level, even if you never accomplish them, at least you'll go higher than you otherwise would have. Yeah. And he talks, guys, and he's using a lot of materialistic things to motivate him, which is an easy external way to go about motivating yourself. But one of the things that Jeff, when you're in the position to buy that plane or buy that boat or whatever else, it's not necessarily the acquisition of it. It's just the feeling of knowing you could. That's what the real true driver is, right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Knowing the feeling you could, and then also taking on the feeling as if you had it. It's
right.
not about buying that new home or that new car. It's about placing yourself in it as if you're there and then taking on that feeling. That is cool to me.
Yeah. Here's the interesting aspect of this, guys. Some of you, I know, are listening to what he's saying, and I haven't even looked at the questions. Julie's going through them right now, and you're a little bit at odds with what he's saying with regards to the fact that he's driven by, so much by external motivation. But here's the thing, guys. In order for Jeff to position himself where he could actually acquire the whatever that's on his dream board, he has to work. He has to learn skills. He has to put in consistent hours, but ultimately what he has to do to be successful is he has to help a lot of people at a very high level. At the essence of it, that's what Jeff is doing. He's helping a lot of people at a very high level, very consistently, I might add. So before some of you guys kind of get lost in the whole idea that, Jeff's motivated by boats, planes, cars, and the other things of that nature, understand that he's just using those as a little carrot. Remember he said he's moving away from fear motivated. Well, that's great. So in this particular situation, it's the ultimate goal of Jeff to put himself in the position to help to acquire those things. But really, for him to do that, he has to help people. If you're struggling in this real estate market to really adapt and understand what your place is, your place ultimately is to be a servant. Be a servant to your market. Be a servant to others. And Jeff, that's the vibe I get from you when I talk to you, frankly. When I talk to you in the past.
Without a doubt. To get everything that I want, I got to help other people get what they want. The whole Ziegler quote. And that's what it's all about. And that's what I strive to do each day is making it happen. If I can't make it happen, I don't make what I want to happen. And so just helping people do it. It's all about, for me, it is about contribution.
That's right. That's really the bottom line. So, Jeff, let's wrap up the call. Obviously, I really appreciate your time today. I thought it was a very powerful interview. You have a lot to offer. I can tell you are trying to be very selective with your words because you're really trying to make a contribution to the almost 800 people that are listening live right now. Is there anything else you'd like to say to wrap the call up? Any way you'd like to summarize it? Any message you'd like to put out there to the real estate legions, either now during live, and there are lots of people that listen to this in replay?
The only thing I would say and contribute to is that, what you think you can achieve in, say, 5 years, you can achieve in 2 years. And the old quote also comes through that if I'm willing to do what others won't in the next 2 years, I can have what others can't for the rest of their life. And so I think that if everybody here could take on that mindset and understand that set some goals, whatever they are, and they can achieve anything that they want. But it's basically, listening to you guys, coach them, and so forth, and having daily disciplines to get there. That's all. And someone says to me, well, what's one thing you might want to add? I said, just as far as the daily activities, it's just, for me, I just make it real simple and make sure that I'm just lead generating or income generating 75% of the day. And if you get to that place, man, it's limitless.
It is truly limitless. Well, Jeff, listen, I really appreciate you being our superstar today. It's a fantastic interview. Really appreciate the contribution you made to all the agents out there. A lot of people need to hear that not only can you be successful in this market, but you can be almost hyper successful because of this market, and that's exactly what you're a living testament to. Yeah. So, Jeff, on behalf of Julie and myself and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, thank you sincerely for being our superstar this week. And for everyone who is out there listening now and in replay, if you want to send Mr. Quinton a referral, they may do so to?
Yep, Jeff at jeffquinton.com. Check me out on the website, email me there, Facebook me, do whatever you guys want to do. Call me. whatever's good. But no, I really appreciate this. I'm very honored to be on the call and help in any way. And again, I've learned from others from interviews and so forth. So, this is what it's all about. You know what I mean? So,
fantastic.
Thanks to you and Tim and Julie to allow me to be on and share.
Thank you very much for being our superstar this week, and everyone have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.